Hey there, welcome to the Reinsurance Podcast, the place where we dive into all things reinsurance, the coolest part of insurance. We're your hosts, Jared and Ben, a couple of ex-practitioners who loved the industry so much we founded Supercede to tackle some of its biggest headaches. And we're here to share our insights and stories with expert guests as we uncover what's really going on in the industry.
Welcome everybody. We've got a slightly odd but therefore interesting episode today where Tom Spire and myself will be exploring some of the challenges faced by seeded re-teams and, in general, seeded re-teams behaving badly, or at least not doing things as efficiently as they could be. Tom, welcome to the show. Excited to chat with you about this topic.
Thanks. Pleased to be here. Odd to be on this side of the table.
It is weird. Yeah.
Not usually opposite you.
No, I'm used to having a guest to my left as well. It's kind of like Jared has rotated his hair around.
Let's move from the front of his face to the top.
This is obviously a topic very close to your heart and to mine. You know, we've seen the industry struggle with a lot of things and have to find workarounds that aren't great and make life painful for the people who work in the industry. So we just thought we'd draw attention to some of the main things that seeded re-teams are doing badly, partly so that if you're out there listening to this and you're experiencing the same, you won't feel so alone, because it seems most of these behaviours are pretty commonplace.
Yeah, they are, and it's odd. We see the same kind of things day in, day out. In the time that, you know, I've been talking to seeded re-teams, which is only a few years. But then what's also weird is they're the same things that you talk about from when you were a reinsurance underwriter that you used to see all those years ago. So
yeah, no, completely. And it's funny, isn't it? Because when you then talk about these things that we will very soon start talking about, post preamble, the kind of things that we're seeing are often people are quite embarrassed about them and they won't reveal them until some point, and they're like, guys, I didn't tell you this in the first call or when you're doing the second demo, but we do it like this, and then reveal, and it's like, and we're like, yeah, we know. How did you know? Well, because everyone does it like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh really? I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
So be not afraid as you listen to what we share here, because this is how most teams seem to be getting around a bad situation.
It's a confessional.
It's a confessional, yeah. Should we try and work through at least like the 5 things? Then Cordy can give it a punchy title: the 5 things seeded re-teams are doing badly. There we are. We've got a target, aiming for 5.
Do it. 5.
So in at number
5.
My favorite one always is the whole A to Z thing. I always laugh at that one. The idea that in order to find policies that could potentially be stacking, you take a list of thousands and thousands of rows of data, you sort it A to Z, and you just manually scroll through and look for things that might be stacking until you get to the bottom.
And group names that look similar. What if the thing that's different about those names is the first letter?
Exactly. That's part of the problem with this extremely challenging and painful approach.
I think one of the examples that we use quite a lot is if you were selling insurance to the Gallagher broking group.
Yeah.
It could be Gallagher, it could be Arthur J. Gallagher, it could be AJ Gallagher. You don't know.
It's a dangerous.
And they're never going to appear next to each other in that list.
Yeah. It's a solid number 5.
That's good number 5. That's good number 5.
Number 4.
I'm going to steal one of yours for number 4 as well. Another one of yours, which always resonates with me. And it's a story that you often tell about when you were underwriting and you got a submission through and you started looking through all the spreadsheets and the information that was in there. And again, next to one of the numbers, there was a piece of writing in red that said, "Please do not pass this number to underwriters," which had been written by the cedent to the broker. And sadly, completely ignored.
Yeah. If only I could say it happened just once. That's a solid number 4. Okay, let's do number 3 before we go to the mysterious ad break / not an ad break. We don't do ads on this show.
Okay, number 3.
Funny segment. So in at number 3, I think one of the things that people are always a bit embarrassed by is when you ask, how confident are you in your data? And what do you do to get yourself confident? And the most common answer after a bit of digging is, well, I open up last year's spreadsheets and I open this year's spreadsheets and I put them next to each other side by side. And I look at
the two screen problem.
The two screen problem, exactly. And I try and see how has one changed, and I scroll simultaneously to try and see whether the numbers look different. And then I go, oh, it is quite different from last year. And I find myself without any means of figuring out why it's so different. And I'm forced into a conundrum as to whether or not I should manually change it to something that sounds more reasonable. But then you're like, am I wrong this year or was I wrong last year? And you're not even sure which one needs sense checking at that point. And so you find...
So you have a kind of pseudo year-over-year comparison.
Yeah.
You have no way of knowing which of those is accurate, or even really why they're different.
Yeah.
Or where things have gone wrong.
And the person who did last year's has left.
That's a super common one.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're constantly being gaslit at the same time by your brokers.
Yeah.
Because honestly, every client I've ever spoken to, they say, "Well, our brokers say that our data is really quite good." it's like it's in that tone of voice and everything.
Yeah.
Please stop doing that, brokers. Like, if someone's got bad data, just say that they have some problem. Like, honesty is the best policy here. Gaslighting is not the approach.
All right, before we go to number 2, now for something completely different.
Viewers, Jared hasn't gotten younger, English, and more attractive. He's stepped out, and we're about to play Problem Pong. We've played this once before over Zoom. So, what are the problems for reinsurance buying teams?
Oh, I remember this game.
Yeah.
So you have to contribute a problem.
Contribute a problem.
And then it's the other person's turn to contribute a problem. And you go back and forward until someone runs out of problems.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're going to start with Tom. Whoever runs out first loses.
What's the scope for these problems? We didn't really introduce the field of where are the limits. Because I could go working in insurance.
Dietary problems?
Exactly.
They might have.
It's specifically seeded reteams.
Just seeded reteams.
Seeded reteams.
Do you know what? We'll expand out to the issues brokers have as well. Anything to do with reinsurance buying.
Anything in the reinsurance buying process. Gotcha. Right. Ready.
Right. Ben to serve.
Ooh, I like it. Okay. Oh no, I have to sort all of my policies A to Z to look for the stacking.
Complex formulas in a spreadsheet.
Hard-coded numbers in spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets.
Sheets of paper floating around.
PDF contracts.
Contracts where the size A4 is not consistent between geographies.
Contracts where the definition of data protection is not consistent.
Contracts in which the data protection definitions have not been followed because they've been emailed randomly around the market.
Bum, bum, bum.
Ooh.
Well done.
Can we have a more specific subject?
We want to play again, clearly.
Okay, problems faced by brokers in their interaction with cedents.
Okay.
Right. Tom to serve.
Cedent takes a really long time to respond to data queries.
I have multiple cedents who do things in different ways from each other.
Multiple reinsurance markets that want to see different information from the cedent.
Different time zones to grapple with because I'm dealing with placements that rely on different territory support.
Loads of people in my organisation that do really specific granular tasks on each program, and it's hard to get them all together.
Somebody in my team who's tried to solve it all using a software that sounds like Jolterix, and they're the only person in the entire organisation who understands how that Jolterix thing works, and they're on holiday.
magic color-coded spreadsheet that the cedent sends over that they expect every underwriter in the world to understand, even though my team barely understands it.
File size limit exceeded when trying to share said file via email.
Losing the password to my file sharing site.
My password not being strong enough to meet the requirements of the password strength calculator.
Bum, bum, bum.
To be fair, that last one,
That was
a bit of a cheat.
It was a bit
you
generic.
should have bombed one before.
Yeah.
It started to devolve into like top trumps cards, the reinsurance.
Yeah, I
version
did
that
actually
we
think, why don't I have one of those under the table?
have.
Those Supercede reinsurance top trumps cards. They would have been helpful.
Right, my
Have
Data.
we given those out to listeners of this?
Only those that have contacted us.
Yeah. By
Yeah.
all means, get in touch if you would like a pack of reinsurance top trumps.
We should do a giveaway. We should get them to do something though.
Ooh.
Explain. Give us ideas. If you
That's another
do
game.
some
Yeah,
problem Pong suggestions, we'll be rewarded with top trumps.
I like it.
Heard it here first.
I thought we were going to play Problem Pong for a third decider, where we would come up with things they would have to do in order to get a pack of top trumps.
That could get out of hand.
It could get out of hand quite quickly, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, we hope you enjoyed that very odd game that we played.
Very odd, wasn't it?
Well, we promised it would be a strange episode, and we have already delivered. But we know you are most excited to hear the top two, I guess, of our top 5 things of seeded reteams behaving badly. So get ready, because they're coming at you. In at number 2, do you want to do number 2 or number 1? How do you want to split this?
So number 2 is quite. I'm going to do one that's quite specific, but it's honestly so common you wouldn't believe. Like it's hard to find a company that hasn't done this at least once.
Yep.
But it's where they've taken the total exposure of a reinsurance layer and used that in their information rather than the amount of the line, the size of the line that they've actually written on that risk.
Yeah. I can see why that would be problematic.
You get these profiles with like hundreds of billions of dollars of exposure in them. And it's always a surprise every single time they create. Surely we don't do that. But then they don't. They just haven't taken line size into account in any of their calculations in, several hundred spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And that's a really common one.
Yeah. That's a very good one. And it gives us just about time before we end to reveal the number 1 example altogether, which they're not really ordered, but arbitrarily number 1 of seeded reteams behaving badly is just missing off data entirely, which seems to happen far more than you'd expect, either because when they were selecting from a source data file to copy and paste, they accidentally missed off a column or a bunch of rows off the bottom. It tends to go unnoticed. Nobody's there like actively counting how many thousand rows was the first extract versus the second one. And you end up with claims going missing. It gets found out by the underwriters further downstream, or premiums not adding up properly anymore, and you're trying to figure out why.
And the embarrassing bit is not that you've missed the information. It's that you've missed the information and you haven't spotted it.
Yeah.
And you've sent it straight onto the broker, no issues. And it's usually something like it's very rarely, we missed this column or something like that. It's usually like, we were using our spreadsheet and our spreadsheet caps out at 1 million rows, even though we have 1.5 million policies in this portfolio. So we just missed off the last 500,000. We didn't think it was that important. And we couldn't really think of another format to put it in other than a spreadsheet. And it just happens all the time.
Yeah. Or even...
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, or the extracts not being the same would be, we didn't include this entire year that we normally include in here because somebody else did it last time. But missing data in at number 1. And with that, we are missing time with which to continue this episode. We must move on. So thank you, everyone, for listening to a rather unorthodox episode about seeded reteams behaving badly. Seeded reteams, we love you, really. We're here to help. Let's solve problems together.
Yeah, we can actually solve some of these things. So I don't feel bad calling them out. And if I've accidentally called out something that you think can identify you, hard luck.
Thanks for tuning in to the Reinsurance Podcast. If you enjoyed our show, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review to let us know how we're doing, preferably 5 stars. For more insights and updates, follow us on LinkedIn and visit our website at supercede.com/podcasts. You'll find the links in the show notes.